This sad story is what happens when you don't innovate. When your competition innovates, Herbert D. said, Tesla is making EVs in their factory in Germany in 10 hours. It's taking us about 32 to 33 hours. So this is what happens when you don't actually take his advice. EV sales have suddenly dropped massively for the Volkswagen Group. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Does this mean that EV sales demand for EVs are tanking? Well, no. If you price them right, they sell well, as is obvious from what Tesla is doing. It's got the best-selling car in the world this year. And it's also obvious from what we just saw in China. Volkswagen's ID3 was not selling well in China. They reduced the price. All of a sudden, sales went up. In fact, sales tripled. They tripled sales by simply pricing it correctly. The ID3 costs less than half the price in China versus what it costs in Europe. And now because the prices are so high in Europe, basically Volkswagen Group is saying, well, rather than actually cutting prices here, because we're going to be losing money if we do that, we're just simply going to accept that we can't compete and we will pause production of two different electric cars they sell. Volkswagen is cutting production of the ID3 and the Cupra Born due to weaker demand. Production of the ID4, ID5, Audi Q4 e-tron and Audi Q4 Sportback e-tron will continue in 3-shift operation, but still they have also reduced the number of EVs they're making of those models in Europe. So we're seeing the Volkswagen Group try to gain back market share in China, reducing prices and making more EVs. Now, they're doing the opposite in Europe. I believe it's a losing strategy, but Volkswagen believe they have to do this. They think they're going to be losing, hemorrhaging, in fact, too much money if they don't. Now, at the same time as this is happening, apparently multiple automakers, including the Volkswagen Group, are under investigation of a probe by the European Union into Chinese auto parts. Basically, the European Union is concerned that European automakers are using mostly Chinese parts in their EVs that are made in Europe. Frankfurt. Volkswagen will suspend production of the ID3 and the Cupra Born electric cars in Germany in the first 2 weeks of October because it says it has weaker demand. In fact, apparently orders have dropped significantly. And I've been saying this for a long time. Don't believe the media. And the media was saying they had a 1-year backlog of orders for their EVs. And they particularly mentioned the ID3 and the ID4. They had a 1-year backlog. Was that true? Well, I said it wasn't. And I'm pretty confident I was right. I mean, come on. They're pausing production because of weakened demand, but they've got a 1-year backlog. Yeah, that was a load of nonsense. And the fact that companies don't get prosecuted for making these kinds of claims, I mean, we know that Tesla does. Tesla does something like this and everyone jumps on it. There's 1,000 lawsuits. The government goes after them. But if Volkswagen Group or Toyota make up stories, just make things up out of thin air, no one says a word. I find this really strange. In fact, no media have even reported on the fact that Volkswagen said it had 1 year's worth of back orders and hundreds of thousands of orders, which if they did, they'd still be having, well, plenty of sales and they wouldn't have to do this. Anyway, due to the current market situation, say Volkswagen, production will be reduced during the autumn holidays for 2 weeks. One of the 2 production lines will be shut down at the Zwickau factory. Production of the ID4, ID5, Q4 e-tron apparently is going ahead during this period of time. Production of the ID3 in Dresden will be suspended for 2 weeks as well. All the ID models built at Zwickau and Dresden are underpinned by the Volkswagen Group's MEB architecture. MEB, it's a bit too heavy. That's why the ID3 weighs more than a Tesla Model 3 and even though it's a much smaller car. Volkswagen have not commented on the number of employees affected, but they have recently fired employees and plan to fire more in Germany. And the unions, and of course, German ministers are very concerned. The automaker said earlier this month that it would not extend the fixed-term contracts of about 270 employees at its electric car plant in Zwickau, at one plant. Very strange to hear this when you see the opposite coming from companies like Tesla, who are saying they've got 20,000 staff at their factory in Texas. They're going to increase that to 60,000. And yet Volkswagen are not even maintaining their current very limited number of staff at their factories in Germany. I believe it's Volkswagen's intention to move most of its automotive production to China from Germany. It's just not telling Germany yet because it's worried about the ramifications and the fallout. It's just going to try and do it quietly over the next few years. Volkswagen is facing rising competition from Tesla and a growing array of Chinese EV automakers, as well as apparently decreased demand charges too much. I've been saying this for a long time. Why is the ID3 the same price as the Model 3? I mean, why is the ID3 like 5 to 10% cheaper than a Model Y, or even the same price? It doesn't make sense. It's a much smaller car. It's quite a small car. Now, the Cupra Born as well. Both these cars, by the way, I think are good. In fact, I quite like the Cupra Born. That'd be a fun car to own. So it's disappointing to see this. It's disappointing that we didn't see Volkswagen innovate. They use no structural battery packs. They don't use LFP, lithium iron phosphate chemistry. They have no gigacastings. They really have nothing that's really innovative. It's just sort of paint by numbers. It's pretty boring and cliched. Don't get me wrong. It's good the Volkswagen Group are making more EVs than companies like Toyota. They're certainly not going to be last to the party. That's a good thing. I mean, they're not going to be, basically the last dude in the woods running away from the bear who gets eaten. So that's a good thing. But at the same time, it's a little bit sad. Maybe for workers as well. I mean, surely workers are going to see that the writing's on the wall. There's going to be tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of job losses in Europe, in particular in Germany. Now, there was a report 12 months ago by analysts in Germany saying they believe there could be up to 1 million job losses in Germany over the next 5 years as a result of the automotive transition. Is that true? I think it's probably understating what's about to happen. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching.